Welcome to Voices of the Code. My name is Karl Murray, and with me, as always, is the fantastic Stephen Fox.
Hello.
And today we have a really special guest, a good friend of mine by the name of Trevor Varwig. And I think Trevor is just born to be a developer. His last name starts with Var.
That's
Oh,
funny.
nice. Yeah. Hadn't even put that together.
All right,
I
Trevor, go ahead and say hello.
Never correlated that. Hey, everyone, my name is Trevor Varwig.
So Trevor is a founding member, and I say founding because we've only done this twice, of the Houston Laravel Meetup. Trevor, tell us a little bit about what got you into development and then eventually what got you into Laravel specifically.
So I started developing when I was probably, 13 or 14. So I've always had a fascination with Microsoft Flight Simulator. Aviation's been a big part of my family. And I was creating different modules and stuff for Flight Simulator 2000 something. I don't know what it was. Somewhere around there. And I wanted a way to showcase or have other flight enthusiasts see those different mods that I've created for it. Most of them were different skin types for aircrafts and things like that. Just very basic. Of course, that was back in the day. That wasn't what like it is today. So I created a website, I bought a domain on Bluehost or something like that. And the only thing I could find back then was PHP BB. And
Good old bulletin boards. Here we go.
back in the day, right?
Before Discord.
For Laravel. So I created that site. I uploaded different mods and stuff like that. And I wanted to be able to change the theme, the layout, things like that. So I started messing with the code here and there. Just did that for a little bit. That's kind of how I started programming as a teenager. And then when I was about 18, I'm an Eagle Scout. One thing is about me, I was really big in Boy Scouts back then.
Nice.
Region that I was in the Western region wanted a website done. So I created a website for them in PHP, and if I remember right, it was the Smarty template language, or template engine.
Dude, nobody knows about Smarty. That's crazy.
So I remember creating that in Smarty, and I was like, well, this is pretty good. I like this stuff.
I feel like somebody revived Sparty not too long ago.
I honestly have not looked into it. I'm not sure.
Once you've got Blade, who cares, right?
Right.
I only know of it because the previous workplace we used Xcart as an e-commerce
Okay.
platform, and I'm pretty sure they were using Smarty. But anyways, sorry, not to derail you, Trevor. Keep going. Keep going.
That's good. After that, I moved to Texas from Colorado and got a job in an LNG field. I worked in the LNG field for about 4 years, and I went into steel manufacturing. When I was there, I was doing steel estimates and stuff like that, and the company realized I had some programming background, so like, hey, we're going to dual role you. So I went and started coding a little bit for them here and there. They were really big into automating different platforms and stuff, like using scanners to scan codes, trying to move material throughout the shop, stuff like that. It was a fairly large manufacturing facilities. They built offshore oil rigs and maintained them and realized them and stuff like that.
Wow.
So it was a fairly large shop, a lot of data, just gigabytes and gigabytes a day of data going through all their different servers and stuff that we set up. And because of that, like a lot of the software I had to use like a lot of binary software, so I learned Go. Go
When
was
would
really
this have
good.
been, Trevor? Sorry again.
This would
Like what year-ish?
I used Go when I was still in beta,
Okay.
whatever year that was. Gosh, that was a while ago.
So in 20 teens?
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, 13, 14, somewhere around there. I can't remember. Then for a lot of dashboard stuff, I started dabbing into Laravel. I heard about it and looked into it. Created a bunch of dashboards in Laravel for the company internally. And we were used RapidMQ to use the programs the Go is written into to get into the SQL database, and then show it display on Laravel platform. So that's kind of how I started with Laravel. After about 8 years there, I went and just started freelancing for about a couple of years. Then after about a couple of years of freelancing, I decided it would be better for me to get a full-time job again. So now I work for an education company. What we do is we create software for tutors and for school districts that help students achieve better on the SAT and ACT.
Cool.
Then we also built like different packages and stuff for advising, like financial advising and college search and things like that. So I've been doing that full time now.
Sweet. So with the job that you're currently doing, is Laravel a part of that like core stack?
Yes, 100%.
Nice.
Laravel, Livewire, and Vue.
Oh, Vue. Now, I heard through the grapevine that you're actually a Svelte guy.
I like Svelte.
What makes you like that?
I don't know. It's a lot less coding, I think. A little bit easier to read in my mind. If you look at it, the statistics on how fast the page loads and things like that is faster than Vue or React. Because I know React as well, because I did a little bit of native React.
So Trevor's over here making me look bad, which is good.
He's like, I can do anything.
I do like React. I like where it was going. I think it could go really far if a lot more people start using it. Of course, there's a little trade-offs between Vue and React and Svelte and stuff, but I think it's a really good framework.
I've never written a single thing in Svelte, so
really,
maybe once we stop this session, you'll have to show me. Like, I know a little bit about it, but I've never taken the time, never had a reason to write a front end with it, so it'd be completely foreign to me. But that's pretty cool. I'm curious.
I feel like that's a YouTube video in and of itself, is watching Trevor teach Steven Svelte.
And just listening to me ask all of these silly questions because I don't know what I'm doing. So how would you do this in Vue? That's basically how most of my questions would probably go. Out of curiosity, since you have a little bit of a background using a compiled language like Go, how I don't know, how's like your feeling between something like Go and now using, PHP and Laravel in production? Which one did you like more? Any pros, cons, stuff like that?
I like both. I think they're unique in their different ways, and they have their own use cases differently. Like, for example, in scanning software, we had something where it had to be fast. It had to be a binary. We couldn't use any type of script or anything like that. It had to be an actual executable to interact with the scanners and stuff. So I think there's different use cases for them. Would I personally build like a web app in Go? Probably not. Now, if I was trying to transfer terabytes of the data in a minute, maybe.
All right.
But most people are not doing that, right? Unless you're like Netflix or Facebook or something. But most people are not. Laravel, I think, works for 99% of the use cases out there for a website and an API.
Right.
So that's one reason why I stick with Laravel. Like, I have experience with like Express.js on the Node side and things. Problem is with like those frameworks, they're absolutely amazing frameworks, but they're so bare bones. Then you have to keep adding different stuff to it. Like your own authentication and there's multiple like database layers to choose from and things like that. And it's hard for other developers to look at it and say, wow, okay, I need to go through this and just kind of see what packages you use and stuff like that. I feel like with Laravel, everything is straight and forward. You should be able to look at code, and if it's written correctly, know what it does.
Right. And hopefully not pulling in 1,000 dependencies.
Correct.
Yeah.
Never roll your own off.
So I've done it before in Express.js, and that was interesting for sure.
Yeah. Well, cool. I've like thought a little bit about trying to pick up another language or two, mainly for fun, just to dabble. And so far, Go and Zig have been my top contenders. So
So
what do you
on
think? Should
that
I pick up?
subject,
Oh,
on
okay.
that subject, I'm going to add another one to your plate. Tari. It uses Rust behind the scenes and JavaScript on the front end.
Right, for desktop applications, yeah.
Oh, Tari 2.0 does mobile applications as well.
Really, I did not hear that. That must be new.
So you could do native desktop applications or native-like desktop applications and mobile apps in one code base. And all you need to do is you can pick your JavaScript front end, so you can do it in Svelte, and you have access to Rust on the back end. And the Rust can make API calls to Laravel if you want.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm ready for Rust.
Oh, you'll be
So,
fine. You don't need to know a whole lot of Rust in order to be good at it. But
I feel like,
Right.
yeah, from what I've heard, Rust is just one of those. It's like, okay to pick up enough that you could write a hello world program in it, but to do it professionally, you've got to go full deep end, and you're talking a long time before you're writing really good, competent, safe, like actually good Rust. So I don't know if I'm quite there yet for something I'm literally just going to dabble in on the weekends. But
Yeah, if I remember
anyways,
right, Stack Overflow said the Rust was the highest paying, if I remember right.
yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. It's incredibly powerful, and like the type system is, God, I don't know what a good descriptor is, but it looks insane. But I think very, very powerful and flexible. But I think it's just like a little bit too much to jump into. I really liked the idea of Zig because I've never done a systems like language, something that's that low level. And yet at the same time, the syntax is pretty straightforward and a little bit simplified. A little bit more Go-esque on that particular part of its consideration. But yeah, I know Go is just becoming really popular, and when you want to get an actual feature done or something written quickly and turned into a binary that can be executed somewhere, it's a really good choice. So it's just sort of like, do I want to play, or do I want to have an additional language under my tool belt that is actually useful for a real world application sometime in the future? So,
Go, I know Docker and Kubernetes are written in Go, and those are time tested right now, for sure. And
yeah.
they're major popular outside the Laravel community.
Yeah, for sure.
Laravel developers are like, nope.
Have you tried to put Laravel into Kubernetes pods?
It's a nightmare. I did it in my previous job, and I did not enjoy it at all. It's
It
not
is
impossible. It's just not fun.
it is a disaster for sure. Just trying to separate all the concerns with the same code base and find fun. It's doable for sure, but it's definitely not fun.
Can you
And that's Trevor's next project. Is he's going to open source dump all of that stuff.
Can you help me understand why that is actually difficult versus, just a like serverless concept?
Because one, you have to know the syntax of Kubernetes very well. One thing that's kind of difficult is getting the jobs and the backgrounds to play nicely and communicate without multiple job instances picking up the same job, for example. Like if you don't set it up correctly and you send out like a job, for example, dispatch an email to send out multiple, even though you might have it coded to only have one run, that doesn't mean one always runs.
Gotcha.
So because that was one problem I had when putting it in Kubernetes, because it would actually dispatch it to different job pods, and those pods would run side by side, and sometimes it would just wouldn't work quite right. So you really had to fine tune it, really understand how Kubernetes works under the hood to try to really get all that working just good, perfect anyway.
Gotcha. Can
It's
we
not,
deep dive a little bit more into like what you're specifically doing with this educational company?
yeah, I can talk
there
a
like
little bit about it.
Is there a particular developer role within the company you do, or are you all over the place?
I'm just a standard, just full stack developer within the company. There's only 3 of us.
Okay.
at the moment, so we're a fairly small team. We all work fairly well together. So my job right now, so I'm working more on the admin side and the internal tooling. We're migrating off of WordPress.
Okay.
That's something that we've been wanting to do for about a year now.
But within the last month, you're like, okay, we really need to get off.
Yeah, they're really right. Yeah, WordPress has been fun lately, hasn't it? Yeah, I've been watching all the WordPress news, and it's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Watching companies like frantically try to find ways of getting away from WordPress is it's painful.
Right. And honestly, our WordPress isn't bad, but we're just having to just code everything in Laravel now that was on WordPress and get the Stripe, all the reporting and stuff into Laravel. So that's kind of what we're doing right now.
Okay.
We're not moving off WordPress because of any of the situations that's been going on with WordPress, but just I don't know, we like everything on one platform instead of two.
Yeah. Totally get that. Seems like a lot of the companies that did get going with WordPress, if they have any other option at some point, it's like, do I want to continue to be using WordPress for this business 10 years from now? And the answer is frequently no. So it's like, okay, what's our next option?
Well, WordPress was really good during its day, and a lot of people, if I remember, it's still 40-some% of the web.
Oh yeah, it's still huge,
pretty massive.
Yeah.
But Laravel being rad and making a $58 million evaluation kind of makes it really hard to ignore.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Before we started this, you mentioned that one of your technical points of interest right now is on security side of things. You want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, for sure. I've been watching a lot of Steven's
thank you.
tips. Yeah.
Just kidding.
That's no, Stephen Reese Carter. He just talked at Lorcon, Australia. And he has a lot of good security tips that I've been watching lately. And he has a new course coming out, which I signed up for, and hopefully it'll be fully out soon.
Are you on his newsletter?
Yes, I am.
Good.
If every Laravel developer should be reading his blog post for sure. Just goes into every little thing about securing cookies and proper course setup and different pen testing stuff that you can do with your website.
But not only that, but it's always the first thing he tries when you hire him. So it's like, oh, now his job gets harder, which is great.
Right. And his stuff is very good. Just all these little tips and tricks, and he updates his blog probably multiple times a week, it looks like.
So let me leave myself a note to get on there.
Right.
Sign up for that newsletter.
SecuringLaravel.com.
Sweet.
So I've been studying a lot of Security Plus, the CompTIA Security Plus. I'm hoping to take the test by the end of the year, which definitely helps out a lot with like PPI and a lot of basic security when it comes to networking and giving the correct users rights, access to what type of data, and just different things like that. So hopefully,
I'm gonna stop you real quick, Trevor, because you said PPI, and I don't know that everybody knows what PPI stands for. Do you want to help them out?
Yes, personal information. So that's anything like your name, your email address, phone number, and address, things like that. When you store that in a database, legally, it has to be only seen by the people that are allowed to see it. And that should not be available to everyone, type thing.
And MD5 hashing is not safe.
That is correct.
All right, sorry. Go ahead.
don't ever use MD5 for sure. So just a lot of different studies on that. Security Plus is a really good one. And then after that, I'm either debating on Pentest Plus with CompTIA or like OSCP or something like that.
Very nice. That's sweet. Sweet. So security into like the broader realm of things, not specifically Laravel, stuff like that. That's super cool. Very nice.
So one of the
Karl,
things that Trevor is also really into is the red team hacking. If you've ever heard of what that is, Trevor, do you want to fill us in on what that kind of red team hacking is?
So red teaming hacking is going into a website, for example, and trying to break it, trying to bypass authentication, trying to bypass any type of authorization checks, try to get data that you should not have access to. On the opposite end, blue team is trying to secure everything to make sure the red teamers don't get any of that data.
Mm-hmm.
So red teaming is kind of going in most of the time blind into a website, sometimes not even knowing what the framework is, trying to dig deep into just what the framework is, trying to see what type of security they do have on their website, and also if you can break into the servers as well. So it's definitely one thing that takes a lot of studying and a lot of trust. If you ever do, like Stephen Reese Carter is like pen testing is kind of like a red teamer. It's kind of goes hand in hand there.
Gotcha.
But
Then
red teamers tend to do a lot more physical stuff as well. So
correct.
physically breaking into buildings that they aren't supposed to be in. Technically, they're paid to be there. They just don't tell the security team that they're paid to be there.
Right. I haven't studied a lot of that yet, but it's what I've been reading a lot about it, and like sometimes like breaking into their Wi-Fi to get into their networks to get into their servers to get in their applications. That's one way
yeah.
to break into some applications. So some red teamers actually do that. They'll sit outside the office, hack in the Wi-Fi, and internally that's how they get access to their databases and stuff.
Trevor is also
Wow.
one of the only people I know that owns a Flipper Zero.
What is that? What is a Flipper Zero?
Oh man, here we go.
A Flipper Zero is
Can of
a
worms just opened.
Yep.
tool.
Let's go.
All right. It's a tool to where you can trigger RFID and different other type of radio frequencies. For example, I can have it listen for like when like a garage door would open. Then I can what's called a replay. And then once I replay it, I can reopen that garage door.
Oh,
So
great.
so it's
This is making me sound so safe at night.
so
Oh,
honestly, it's a tool to demonstrate how programmers should be programming physical devices, kind of like a garage door. Like most of them have what's called rotating keys. So like whenever you press a button to open a garage door, it sends a secured key, kind of like a TLS encryption. And then if I try to go replay that, it's expired. So it shouldn't happen.
it's
Okay.
kind of like a one-time password where it exists for like
Correct.
30 seconds and then it refreshes.
Correct. And that's how a lot of the physical devices should work. That doesn't mean that's how they all work.
I was about to say you used should there, so I'm assuming there's a lot that aren't.
Correct. There are nowadays they're getting a little bit better when it comes to stuff like that, like gates and garage doors and just different things. But another thing you can do is, for example, I can pretty much point it at any television and turn it on and off, change channel,
Okay.
things like that too. And it's kind of sets it up as like a universal remote type thing.
Gotcha.
Okay, so one thing that you can do with this thing, Trevor, and correct me if I'm wrong, your RFID badges that you
Yes.
have to wear when you're walking into an enterprise business, they have a code that is singly assigned to a single person. Trevor, how long does it take to steal that code off of those cards using a Flipper Zero?
So I got
So don't show a hacker your badge ever. Matter of fact, when you're outside of the building, don't have the badge in sight ever.
What is the like distance requirement to pick up a thing like that RFID
usually like
badge?
it's less than a foot. So you have to be
Okay. So
standing
you have
next
to be
the
right
person.
there. Okay.
Correct. Like credit card, a lot of criminals that do steal credit card numbers, that's how they're doing it. Also, like at gas stations, there might be a reader onto the chips. That's how they're doing it. Because it's that really close proximity.
Yeah.
And that's
Feel
how
like
they're able to steal that information.
I've heard about something recently where people, especially for people that will hang up their car keys, which for a lot of the newer cars, right, they're using like a near field communication to just know whenever you're approaching the car, and to unlock it, you don't have to hit any physical buttons. And if you hang your keys like right at a door or near a wall that's exposed to the exterior, you can like try to trip that using a device like this, and then you'd be able to get into the vehicle if it's outside of the house, outside of the garage. Though it
It's
sounds like even if
possible.
it were in the garage, you might be able to get it yourself. But
Right.
is that like along the similar lines?
It is possible for sure.
Man,
It is
Just
definitely
don't do it
possible.
within a foot of your front door, for the love of God.
so I just need to put all of this stuff in a Faraday cage, and then
Yep. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Put your Wi-Fi in there as well. I heard that's very beneficial.
Oh, great. Perfect. Yep. I'll just run Ethernet everywhere, forget the Wi-Fi exists, and we're good to go.
I read a story, I think it was somewhere in Detroit or something, where the criminals were going around and doing like a Wi-Fi blast and creating a DDoS attack against Wi-Fi. What that was doing, that was killing all the Ring cameras and all the wireless security cameras were around them, so they weren't broadcasting. So security cameras, I definitely recommend to be hardwired.
Yeah.
Even if they're on a PoE switch, you have to be careful with them as well, because they can still knock those offline as well.
Right.
Jeez.
Yep, you're not as safe as you think you are, Steven. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah. Great. I hope my wife doesn't listen to this particular episode.
Suddenly, Steven now owes like $30,000 worth of technical equipment to be able to safely secure his stuff.
Yeah. Gonna be going through the attic to run hard lines to all of our Ring cameras. Thanks a lot, guys.
You're welcome. Trevor also has a really cool interest in Microsoft Flight Simulators. He mentioned that earlier. Do you still have a rig or no?
I still have the rig. I haven't played it in a long time. It's been a while, but the new Flight Simulator 2024 comes out this week.
Oh,
So
cool.
So I may run and get a new GPU for that. We'll see.
Are you using a VR headset for that or monitors?
I just use monitors.
Okay.
I've never really gotten into the whole VR thing yet.
I'll bring mine over. You'll love it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll
I
get that set up for
considered
sure.
a headset a while ago, almost exclusively for the purpose of stuff like Flight Simulator, because it just seems really freaking cool to be that immersed in it. And as you turn your head, you look at the various windows outside the plane, and that seems really, really cool to me.
I was driving a McLaren in my simulator. Not really, because they don't let me have McLarens for obvious reasons. But it's weird because you can see like the tags on the seats and stuff like that. So like they'll clone, like get down to that level of detail to like the tags on the seats.
That's
inside
awesome.
simulators. It's crazy how cool this is.
I think it's close to 80 gig download. It's insane.
That is insane.
That's just the base.
Man. Well, whenever like the, current generation, I guess you'd call it, of Microsoft Flight Simulator came out, because it was like, there was like a large hiatus, right? There was like the original, and it was a bunch of this very low res geographical data and building data. And then whatever year it was that like the new generation came out, that was just
like 2020 or something like that.
Accurate. Yeah.
2020 was the year.
That was so cool. I remember going up and I'm flying around. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I live in a fairly small town, but I'm like, no way. Like
there's my house,
the highway exit. And yeah, like there's my grocery store. Like, it doesn't have literally everything, especially for a more rural location like where I'm located, but it had a surprising amount for kind of being in the middle of nowhere. I was like, this is so cool. That's awesome.
They're using satellite data and AI to generate a lot of that, and it's fairly accurate nowadays. It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Accurate.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, even now, like completely different purpose, but you go on like Apple Maps and you turn on 3D, and the accuracy of the building geometry and details that are in all places of Apple Maps is really phenomenal. So I'm sure it's a very similar technique for Flight Simulator, but yeah, really, really cool. Really cool. And then, of course, you have to take an underpowered plane and try to fly over Mount Everest. That's like that was like the very first thing I did. I have no idea why. It's like, can I take this little single engine diamond to 30,000 feet? No.
Nope. Doesn't work.
Waiting for him to grab a prop plane and
yeah. And then, of course, the very next flight is grab the. I remember what fighter jet they like give you out of the stock game, but then you pick that up and it's just like, okay, well, afterburners all the way. Let's see what it can do.
Right. Yeah, I think the 2022 was the F-18.
Okay. What's like expected for this 24 release? Is it just more of the same, or are they any sort of a big revolutionary thing?
More internet bandwidth, because they're going to do like real-time weather.
Yeah, so that's one did real-time weather too, but this one's supposed to give a large update on it, especially like on cloud businesses and stuff like that. It's supposed to be a lot more accurate. They're going to do a lot more what they call missions style this go around. For example, you can do like rescue missions and like off oil rigs and in mountains and just things like that. A lot of mission style. It's kind of interesting how they implement that, but it's been kind of cool.
Do you think they're trying to go? Do you think they're trying to sell the game as like a real flight simulator so that people can actually learn to fly before they get their pilot's license?
Possibility. I almost had my private license at one point, and I used Flight Simulator a lot back then, just to kind of help me out, especially with talking to air traffic control and things like that. It was a really big study guide for that.
Right.
I do have a friend that's getting a private pilot's license. Joe, if you're listening, shout out. Congratulations. I hope you get closer. He's a really cool guy, by the way. But yeah. So yeah. Lol. Thanks for ruining that one, Karl. I don't know where
it was on the tip of your tongue.
Yeah, it was there. Man. It was there. But yeah, that would be cool to see Trevor get his private pilot's license. Make that so.
Yeah, one day. It's expensive. It's not a cheap hobby.
Very expensive. I was actually also extremely interested in it as well. I went to Embry-Riddle for university, which is like the #1 flight school in the world. And so I've, just been around that environment a lot. I have friends that are now pilots. And I really wanted to. And then I started looking more and more into it. And I'm like, okay, what is the actual kind of return on such a financial and time investment? How is my family going to get to use a plane? Where we'll be able to go? How much is it going to cost? And like, whoo, you just start adding it up, and getting the certificate is just the first step. And then actually using the things gets very expensive.
And you have to have like 200 hours or something like that of fly time before you can even do something with it, and you're not even allowed to make money off of it at that point. You have to have something like you can't make money until you're like 2,000 hours, something like that.
Until you get your commercial license. Yeah,
not quite.
You have to have a commercial license.
Yeah, which the minimum flight time for that, I believe, is 250, but you're kind of getting into a whole other realm of stuff. But like for us, or for me, yeah, I just wanted to be able to take my family to a destination that would normally take 6 hours in a car, especially going up and around mountains, and instead you could just fly direct for 2 hours or something in a 182.
Just wanted to be able to take his family to lunch in Colorado and fly home. That's what it was. Let's be honest.
That'd be nice.
I would
love to do that.
Nothing that crazy, but yeah, I mean, it's just like as soon as COVID hit and stuff, like the private aviation realm got extremely expensive. So now I just got to bum off of other people that already have their license and can.
There's a YouTuber who does that kind of stuff where he'll post videos of him like leaving Florida and then going to Colorado for lunch and then like getting back in the plane and flying home. And I'm like, that's insane.
Colorado for lunch?
Yeah.
Boy, like you have to be flying a jet at that point, because and anything propeller, That's a long time.
It's like a 3-hour flight for him, and then he flies back home. So it's an
Not from
all-day
Florida.
thing.
Not from Florida.
Well, it might have been like North Carolina or something like that, but yeah. So
Planes are fast. They're not that fast.
Right.
It's an all-day thing for him, but he's making enough money from the YouTube videos and the ads alone to pay for that flight. So
Yeah. But stuff like that. I mean, I am in North Carolina. My whole family, including my wife's family, is down in Florida. So that was like a perfect example. It's like 500 nautical miles, kind of right at the limit of what normal private aviation planes could do on a tank. Maybe would have to make a stop, but either way, it's like, 3-ish hours of flight time, whereas in a car, it's like 9. So it would just be amazing to be able to, exactly, get up, get in the plane at 9 a.m., and you've, hopefully landed by about lunchtime, and that would be amazing. But it would also cost you like about $1,200 to do that. So
yeah, a friend of mine Joe was telling me the other day how much money it was going to cost for him to fly from like Indiana to Texas was like something like $550 or something like that. I was like, that's not too bad. He's like, yeah, but I got to fly home. I got to rent the plane. It costs time. And I'm like, all right, fine. Don't fly to Texas. We don't have to hang out.
Yeah.
Right. Like even living in Houston, like if I want to go down to Corpus, it's like a 5-hour drive, right? But it's only like an hour and a half flight. Like if you can you're going to Cessna. So that's like one reason why because I like going down to Corpus or even Galveston. It's like still an hour and a half drive for me. And
so Laracon was in. So it's kind of funny when you think about it, because like Laracon was in Dallas this year, which is a 30-minute flight, right? So like Houston to Dallas was is a 30-minute flight. That's insane. But then you think it's like, oh well, I got to get to the airport 2 hours early. I'm going to be at the airport for 2 hours. It's a 3.5-hour drive. Like
at that point, you might as well drive.
Yeah.
So the Houston Laravel Meetup was kind of a fun project that Trevor and Nick and Ryan, thank you. I'm sorry, Ryan. I didn't mean to forget you, buddy. So yeah, he's gonna get mad at me. I'll have to send him a text message later. So that was a project we started because it took us leaving Houston to hang out in Dallas to get to know that there were other Laravel developers in Houston.
That's true.
So fun story. We're actually trying to grow that group right now. It is just 4 guys that are hanging out in each other's homes and talking about Laravel and drinking coffee. But that is something that we do eventually want to grow to be something that's a little bit bigger. I kind of got jealous a couple of weeks ago when Steven was talking about the upstate PHP, and I was like, oh man, I want to get
Greenville, South Carolina.
I want to get there.
Yeah. It was really cool. I'd be surprised if you guys don't have a lot more developers in your community.
No. We're oil and gas. It's all oil and gas all the way
it's a
here.
Lot of oil
so
and
it's
gas.
C++. You're going to have desktop application. No. The oil and gas industry does not move at all. So desktop applications has been all they've ever known. And that's all they will ever know until that industry gets disrupted. Trevor could tell you about that all day long. Trevor, do you want to tell us some stories of these horror stories that you've dealt with working in the oil and gas industry?
Horror stories. Oh, where do I begin?
There's too many to count. There's a lot of them.
Some of the software, you're correct though, Karl. It's just some of the software in the oil and gas industry has been there for 20 years and it still works to this day. Like most of it's written in C and C++, and just it's old, but you know what? It works. And then their motto is like, why break it why fix it if it's not broken?
Right. And as long as Windows supports whatever version that they're on, they're going to keep doing it.
Hey, if you know what you're doing, I mean, isn't, like Chrome and there's tons of extremely important stuff written with C++. So You just got to know what you're doing, or you blow off your whole
Right.
leg.
Well, yeah, but a lot of what they're doing is like ordering parts and then like locating where oil can be found. So it's like, do you really, really need a desktop application for that? Or could we, put this in a web app and load it on an iPad?
I see.
This is the kind of technology that I'm talking about, where it's like, no, we got to ship this guy across the country with a $40,000 laptop or a Lenovo Toughbook that could fall out of the plane and still survive because we don't trust an iPad. That's the level of crazy we're talking about when it comes to the oil and gas industry.
I gotcha.
So no, I legitimately thought, like, oh, okay, I'm probably one of the only Laravel developers in Houston. And yeah, I got in a group chat and they were like, nope, I'm from Houston. I'm from Houston. I'm from Houston. And I was like, no way. So yeah, I thought it was funny that we had to all, fly or drive 3 hours to find out we exist in
The same
in the same city.
That's true.
How
Yeah,
big
I think-
is how big is Houston for you guys? Like whenever you meet up, does it take a while for you guys to all
Depends on
Assemble?
traffic.
Okay.
Right.
So we're all within 30 minutes of each other with no traffic. But with traffic, the last meetup was like an hour drive.
Yeah, it was about an hour and
Ugh.
20 minutes for me with traffic.
Yeah.
And you're like
that was-
actually in Houston? You're not
Yes.
like, 45-minute suburb. You're like in
no.
In Houston.
Jeez.
Yeah, he's I'm not going to say exactly where, but he's like the northern side of Houston, and we're on the northwestern side of Houston. So there's like there are major freeways that go from there to there, but they're all tollways mostly. So it's kind of expensive to even meet up. What is it,
I
like
see.
$20? Like,
It's about $20
back.
for me to our last meetup. Yeah.
Wow.
so it can get pretty expensive to just maneuver around Houston for an hour and a half to.
Houston's 8 million people in that area.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
and growing.
It's
Okay.
fairly large. Yeah, it's growing tremendously. So I actually live in a brand new neighborhood, and they can build homes faster.
Man.
Yeah. The city that's not far from me, and ironic, I'll put city in air quotes because it's not really a city. Just had a grant to build 300,000 new homes, and
Holy moly.
like 70% of them have already sold out.
Jeez.
To give you some context, when I was looking for my home that I currently live in, one of the houses was selling for $200,000. And my wife and I were like, all right, we're going to put in an offer for $230,000 because homes aren't staying on the market. And a guy pulled up in a Tesla with California plates. And I just looked at my wife and said, we're not getting this house. Because that's how bad it is in Houston right now when it comes to like buying a home, even with the recession and the housing prices and taxes and all that kind of stuff are through the roof.
What's the cause of that? Why are people going to Houston?
I think jobs, honestly. There's a lot of jobs here that people can get. Housing is a lot cheaper. There's no income tax here for state. And taxes
have
are
no
fairly
states.
reasonable.
And we have no state taxes either.
Right.
So, yeah. The other part of it is I think a large portion of this was like during COVID. A lot of people were figuring out, hey, I can go remote. I don't have to work in my cubicle in California. So let's go find a place in Houston where I can chill out and, still have a lot of people in a lot of places to interact with people, but not have to pay the ridiculous California sales taxes and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Interesting. Gotcha. All right, Trevor. New plan. Rather than the private certificate for planes, you just need to get a helicopter license, and then you can just go plop down right in Karl's front yard, assuming he has one. Pick him up, and then you guys are good to go. And it'll be like $2,000 to get to your next meetup, but it'll be awesome.
That would be pretty sweet.
Actually, we could cut our meetup in half because of the fact that we could just meet up in the helicopter.
Oh my gosh. Perfect.
We could do it like, what's the maximum flight range of a helicopter? We can do it like 3,000 feet in the air. It'd be great.
Dude,
Right.
sick.
Be
Just-
fun to do once.
Just hover over Houston at like 3,000 feet with, coffee and 4 guys talking about Laravel for 3 hours.
Burning like $100 a minute in fuel, just chilling.
That'd be fun.
Actually, I
Don't
have
worry
no
about
idea,
it.
but that's what's
It'll
crazy.
be
Whenever
fun.
whenever we had Hurricane Helene come through the Asheville area, and it was really cool, interesting seeing a bunch of the kind of like private people that do own regular helicopters like come into the area, and they were rescuing and helping so many people because they literally could just plop down in the street right in front of the person's house, save them, and out they go. So I was like,
We see
man,
a lot
that's
of
so
that.
cool.
Yeah, we see a lot of that here in Houston.
I mean, you think about the Jericho that we had earlier this year. People are walking down downtown Houston, and suddenly glass is flying out of the tops of these skyscrapers. People are like running, like literally. The Jericho hit. Nobody knew it was coming, and then suddenly glass is just blown out of skyscrapers.
Man,
So, the hurricanes happen here once every 4 or 5 years. Houston gets basically wiped off the face of the map. People are like riding canoes to go save people.
Yep.
I've seen that one. That was kind of heartbreaking. I've actually done the whole like removing drywall and carpet and stuff like that from old churches so that people would have places to sleep while they're rebuilding their homes. So yeah, I've been there, done that. Got the t-shirt. It's not fun. Seriously, they give us all t-shirts because they don't let you wear your regular clothes in there because there's diseases and stuff like that you're dealing with when you think about like swamp water and stuff like that could potentially be bacterial growths and stuff like that in the drywall and carpet because it's been underwater.
This is great podcast content.
You're welcome.
Love this.
But I mean, that's what it's
People
like sometimes.
They're gonna be listening. How did we get here? Why are we talking about amoebas in water? What's going on here?
Yeah. I mean, that's Houston sometimes. It's real.
I got you.
Cool. But yeah. So we went from flight simulators to amoebas. Thanks. All right, Trevor, I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping this up here pretty soon because I know we've all got things to get back to, but I'm going to ask the question that we love asking. What are your hobbies?
Okay. My hobbies. I'm an offset smoker. I like smoking meat, brisket, particularly.
Heck yeah.
I try to do that every weekend if I can afford it.
Houston Laravel Meetup at Trevor's house when?
I was about to say.
Next time.
Let's do it.
What's your favorite like meat? Are you like a brisket guy, pork shoulder, ribs?
I like ribs.
Else?
I like experimenting with ribs. One, they're a lot cheaper. All the different flavors and stuff you can put in a rib, and just like honestly, yesterday we had a Jamaican jerk, which was really good. I've tried different ones like a Peruvian honey. I did that one last week on the ribs. Oh, that was delicious.
That sounds
so
good.
Honestly, I've been doing that a lot here lately, and just trying different wood flavors and things, and so it's been fun. I'll enjoy it.
Nice.
What is your favorite seasoning? Like, what's the one that you grab every single time?
It would have to be like a spicy honey, like a habanero honey. When it comes to ribs, anyway. I put it on ribs and pork shoulder.
Or something else.
Offset. So mainly keeping the fire going, like a good old Boy Scout days, and just maintain the fire in good temperature. Consistent temperature is really important.
Right.
It's been fun. I've been trying to do that a lot here lately and just study a lot on it.
Nice.
Maybe one day I'll compete.
Oh, now we're talking.
There's a lot of those competitions in the Houston area. So
I judged last year in my local county, So that was fun. So that's really helped me get into that.
That's cool. That's cool. I've done a little bit of smoking, but only with a big green egg.
Okay.
And so I'm like, how do I convince my wife to let me get another outdoor appliance? So
Right.
at that time, we had the big green egg, gas grill, 2 pizza ovens. It's just like, okay, how do I get a 300-pound offset smoker onto the patio
Mine's about
without her killing
3,000
me?
pounds. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I got
all
a
right,
big
cool.
one. That's about 3,000 pounds. So it's pretty good size.
Yeah.
All right, what else?
Okay.
You're demanding a
That's it.
lot from this guy.
Yeah.
Jeez. He's spending all day coding and cooking. What more do you want from him?
Trevor is that meme where it's like, you spent 8 hours smoking. He's like, yeah, it was a brisket.
Good news.
That's funny.
Man.
You're going to have to put that meme together. That'd be hilarious.
It's already a thing. I'll just send it to you. You'll love
Okay.
it. It's like, boss, why are you, or where were you for 8 hours? He was like, smoking. He's like, you spent 8 hours smoking? He's like, it was a brisket. All
Hilarious.
right. Trevor, it's been awesome having you on the show. Stephen, do we have anything to close this out, or
We can do a couple
No.
of our quick rapid fire questions if we want.
let's start with the favorite one. What social media platform can we find you on? How can we find you?
X and LinkedIn.
All right.
X.
And,
I still
what are
can't
your
call
tags?
it X.
I still
Just can't. It's Twitter.
can't
It
either.
will always be Twitter.
Twitter. Yep. I agree.
And what's your handle, Trevor, for the listeners?
I'm assuming just my name, Trevor Varwig, I believe. I'll have to look that up.
A correction can be applied if needed after the
Right.
fact.
So X is just my name, Trevor Varwig, and LinkedIn, I believe, is the same.
And if
What's
you're ever
your-
confused, you could just look up Trevor Varwig Houston on LinkedIn, and I'm pretty sure you'll find him.
I do have a
Nice.
cousin named Trevor Varwig. He lives in California, so don't confuse me with him.
It'll
Yeah.
be one of the two. What's your
Right.
what's your text editor of choice, Trevor?
Vim.
Ooh, this one.
I used to
Oh
be
my-
in PS Storm, and it's a memory hog, and my M1's slowing down now, so I went to Vim.
One of
Vim,
the-
so
One of the latest meetups, Trevor showed me his PHP config, or his PHP Storm config, and he had like 8 gigs of RAM allocated to PHP Storm, and it was still crawling. I was like, no, Trevor, something is wrong here.
right.
Jeez. See, I don't know
I've-
why people I have never experienced that with PHP Storm. It is always
It crawls.
super snappy.
It is super slow. Auto completion is slow. So like I'm going to NeoVim. So I've been using.
I don't know
it
how
for
we
now
made
about
it
a
this
month.
far in the conversation without you telling us that.
Right.
Isn't that the very first thing? Hi, my name's Trevor. I use NeoVim, by the way.
No,
That-
it's because he uses a MacBook. He doesn't use Arch. So
Okay.
I'll probably come to that once if this thing dies. I'm going straight Linux.
oh my goodness, I can't believe we talked about this. Trevor and I were looking at the framework laptops like really, really, really hard during one of the calls. And yeah, I think Trevor was the one that like pushed me over. It was like, yep, I got to get one.
Yep.
So
Wait, so that's
they're
happening?
nice.
You're getting one?
I'm trying to convince Lumenfire to get me one, but it's going to be a while before that they'll be willing to do that.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I've had a few laptops and do like a Ubuntu desktop or a couple of other desktops. There's always something that doesn't work with it, right? Some driver that's needed that doesn't quite work with this model, stuff like that. So there's one computer out there that
You said what operating system is that?
Ubuntu.
Okay. So I made you repeat that because there's one of my friends who listens to this podcast absolutely gets angry whenever somebody says Ubuntu. It's Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
And it makes him absolutely mad whenever people say it wrong.
That's funny. I probably pronounced it wrong a few times.
So yeah, every time somebody messes it up, I'm going to make them repeat it just so that Scott can hear that and get mad. It'd be fun.
That's funny.
Okay.
Okay, so
It's a
what
NeoVim
other
user.
operating systems are we using fairly regularly, Trevor?
Honestly, just Mac or Ubuntu. I use Debian for servers. If I have to set up a new server for something, I prefer Debian. That's pretty much about it, honestly.
I'm waiting for you to say like that super hacker distro that everybody
Kali.
uses. Yeah,
Kali.
Kali Linux.
I do have a Kali. I have a Kali VM on my Mac.
Are you gonna call that VM Kali? Is that like the name that you're gonna call it?
Kali or Kali, yeah. That's what it's called, yeah. So if you don't know what Kali is, it's a pen testing operating system. It has thousands of tools installed to help like break passwords or getting to different websites and break them. It's just a lot of different
Wi-Fi.
tools to Wi-Fi is one.
There are tools to help you hack other people's Wi-Fi. There you go.
There are.
Okay. I feel like this episode needs a disclaimer. We are not condoning hacking people,
Right.
in any way, shape, or form. Lawyers, stay away from us. We don't make any money off this podcast.
Said, as long as everything you do is white hat and legal, that's how it should be.
Yep. Get permission.
Absolutely.
And get paid. That way they can't say that you didn't do it for a reason. You can say, look, no, you paid me. Here's the receipts. I was there for legal purposes.
Join HackerOne. That's a really good platform for you to definitely stay legal, and just make sure you read the scope of terms and don't go outside the scope.
If you want to play, Hack the Box is great.
Hackbox is wonderful. I went through all their courses.
They give you a VM and they tell you to hack it, and they tell you how to hack it. So you can do it legally for not a whole lot of money.
It's really cheap.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
Out of curiosity, Trevor, do you have any like programming, web development, or Laravel specific tips that you feel like
specifically for new developers?
Yeah.
Definitely, Laravel is definitely really good to start out with if you're to start out programming. It kind of gets you, showing you what clean code is and how everything should be. Don't try to create your own thing because it's probably already out there and it probably works.
Yeah.
But that's probably my tip for any new coders. Don't let AI write your code for you. Definitely know what you're coding for sure. AI is a great assistant, but don't let it just have it write the whole thing for you.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Stay away from Cursor. Otherwise, he will use Kali Linux to figure out how to hack your app. And
as long as you tell me it's okay.
Man.
All right.
Nice.
Well, this has been an awesome episode. Trevor, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And I'll see you at the next Houston Meetup. It'll be fun.
Awesome.
That sounds great. Thank you, Trevor. For anybody listening, please feel free to like, subscribe, or leave us a comment. If there's anything you'd like to ask a future interviewer or interviewee on the show, we'd be happy to do that for you. And I think that'll be all for now. So yeah, Trevor, once again.
Wait.
Oh,
one last thing.
What's up?
One last thing. If you want to be on the show, send me an email. Karl@karlm.dev. KARL@KARLM.dev.
There you go.
We can get you on the show.
We should probably set up like a show specific email.
Yeah, we should. I'm working on it. There's so many things to do.
We're just developers. We don't know how to do that kind of stuff. So
yeah, there's so many things to write. Come on. I'm not Aaron Francis. I can't just build things because I want them to exist.
Oh my God. Okay. And on that note, great episode. Catch you guys later.